All right, I'd like to welcome you all to the first episode of Progressive Uplifts Our Reading Revolution, a podcast dedicated to exploring and discussing politics and things written about politics from a progressive perspective. I'm your host, Brittany. Today, I'm honored to welcome Michael Graham, author of Our Bernie Sanders Writing Revolution, a book dedicated to his personal experience and observations of the 2016 Democratic primary. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Brittany. Thanks for having me.
Good. Do you want to give me a little overview of your book?
Just quickly, it was just, basically it's a collection of essays that I wrote during the primary. Most of them were in the are on progressivearmy.com. But I figured some people may like to have them collected in one space. I know my mother did, so so this is basically a project to keep my mother happy.
Thanks for Mom.
Thanks, Mom. So collected them all together, and that was just the basis. And I think it's good to lay down markers for where you were and how you felt during this time period. And I think it's like a time capsule of what we were going through at that time, at least for me.
Okay, before we get into the questions, I just want to know, so it's been a little over a year since you wrote this.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, do you feel any differently than you did?
I'd have to say no. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Bernie after he backed out and supported Hillary, but I don't think anybody could have really expected anything much different. But I don't have only. No, I don't have any mixed feelings. There was a time I went through some personal changes when after Trump won. It's like, did I play a role in Trump winning? And I thought about it. There's a $1.5 billion operation that was supposed to get Hillary elected. That's not my fault. You know what I mean?
It's not your fault. No.
Yeah, you get all the media. I mean, everybody and their grandmother was on Hillary's side. They blew it. I mean, the Dems blew it. There's no way to get around it. I mean, you can blame people on further to the left, they're in the center. People on the left, you can blame gerrymandering. You can blame kittens and frogs. It doesn't. At the end of the day, it was on the Democratic Party, the DNC, and Hillary campaign to get more votes and win the Electoral College in order to defeat President Trump, and they failed. I mean, it is what it is.
That they did. They definitely.
Yeah, failed like a mug.
Yeah, they failed spectacularly.
Yeah, epically.
Okay, so in chapter 1 of your book, you talk about how Bernie has this gravitational pull, and it seems like he kind of still does.
Yeah, he does.
And right now, Tom Perez is the chair of the DNC, and he's not really capitalizing on it the way that he should. He's scheduled this unity tour. It was kind of a failure. Well, for Tom Perez, everybody loves Bernie.
Absolutely.
Do you think that Keith Ellison would have handled that differently if he had gotten the chair?
I think he would have, but well, as most of us know, Perez was dropped in there to beat Keith Ellison. That was his role, right? If it wasn't for Tom Perez dropping in with the blessing of Barack Obama, Ellison probably would have won, right? But Ellison was a little bit too far to the left. Now, I think this version of Keith Ellison we're seeing now, as in the assistant director, whatever his role is now.
It's a made up position.
It's a made up position, but I think he would have been more strident had he gotten the job. I think right now he may be seeing it as, okay, I'm just going to hold on until they let Perez go and I'm the next guy up, and he's expecting a fair deal. And I don't think he's going to get one, but maybe he's hoping for a fair deal. But I haven't been happy with his performance thus far, but it is what it is. But to answer your question, absolutely. If Keith Ellison would have won, he would have handled it completely differently.
Well, and I also don't think people would have booed him on a unity tour.
Yeah, buddy. He said Tom Perez thought he had Bernie in a trap. He ended up. I don't know if you said. I'm sure everybody's probably seen it by now. That MSNBC interview. I think it was Chris Hayes' show with him and with Bernie and Perez. Perez he looked like a damn hostage. He was horrible.
I keep going back to those pictures I don't know what rally it was at, where there's like a bunch of people behind them and you see Bernie and everybody's like holding up signs and cheering. And then you see Tom Perez and everybody's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
the fuck off the stage.
Perez, he doesn't have the biggest personality in the world anyway. But I mean, and that's part of the problem. That's what the Democratic Party and their system selects, right? They select people who do what they're told, right? These aren't leaders. These aren't innovative people. These are people that do what they're scheduled to do, right? So I mean, they what's that woman's name? They used to, we used to call them the Black Leadership class. And what is I can't remember. Yvette Carnell. She calls them Black Leadership functionaries, and that's really what they are. They're functionaries, right? They're plugged into this system because of their gender or their race or both, and they're supposed to be an avatar for what people of color want, right? And that's what Perez was, right? And just like Kamala Harris is today, or Cory Booker is today.
Are you saying Tom Perez was an avatar for what people of color want?
No, but from the Democratic point of view.
You think
they figure they put somebody brown, beige, or blue out there.
Oh, he's Hispanic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's half black, half Hispanic. Right?
Is he really?
Yeah, I think so. Well, he has black features, Hispanic last name. He's the Holy Grail. I mean, all he needs is indoor plumbing, and he's the one. He's the one. He's the man. Person. Right. But I think we got that in Kamala Harris now, right? Or at least they think they have that in Kamala Harris now, but that's an argument for another day.
Yes, it is. All right. So in chapter 3, you talk about how the country needs a progressive reset. So I say this a lot on Twitter. I say, like, if I lived in the ideal world of Earth 2 where Bernie Sanders is president, how do you think he would be able to get that progressive reset accomplished?
Well, first we have to look at what we were seeing in 2016, right? Bernie would have done nothing else if he was a nominee. He would have driven bodies to the polls. All those young people that became disaffected after Hillary won, quote, that's air quotes for the one.
The popular vote in California and New York.
Well, no, I mean, the primary, right? I don't think it's at this point. I think that only Hillary loyalists and people that aren't paying attention think that was a fair race, right? And I don't even think the Hillary loyalists believe it was a fair race. I think most of their argument is he got as fair a deal as he was going to get because he wasn't a Democrat, right? That's the way they look at it. But if you just look at what the polls said, right? He was in the national polls, in the polls of polls as it goes. In those polls, he was 9, 10, 15 points ahead of Trump, right? He would have driven people to the polls. He would have driven millennials to the polls in numbers we have never seen before, right? I know for a lot of people that's a counterfactual, but I believe that with the very core of my being, right?
I agree. As a millennial, I agree.
Absolutely. And he would have driven in a blue wave that would have definitely taken the Senate and maybe taken the House, right? And that's a mandate. As my brother would say, that's a mandate, homie. That is an absolute mandate. And if he drives in that blue wave into the Senate, takes over the Senate, and he drives in, and he puts the Republicans on their heels in the House at the very least, so they don't have a large majority enough that they could just drown everyone out, right? We're looking at an entirely different landscape, right? Gorsuch doesn't go into the Supreme Court. It'll be somebody else who would probably still be fighting about it at this point. Whoever that was going to be, the Republicans would probably just fight and fight and fight. But then again, it's the Senate, right? We would own the Senate then. So I guess it's a different show. So we're going to get the Supreme Court. we had the Senate, and we had the White House, right? And if we act fast enough and push hard enough, 2018, we own the House. I mean, we own the House too, right? I mean, this is me spitballing to a degree, but I mean, this is what I think could have and should and would have happened, right? And then now we're talking about change, real change, not mealy mouth. Well, that's all we could get change. We're talking about real change. Could we get to everything we want that first 2 years, right? Before the first midterm? Probably not. But we're heading that way. Because that's one thing I always said about Bernie. Bernie's not perfect. Bernie's not a messiah. He's not a savior. But God damn it, he'll fight for us.
He will. I
Yeah.
I mean, I would be a little bit more concerned about the rest of the Democrats.
Yeah. I mean, but then what would happen with Democrats is they would show their true colors, right? Right now, because the
I feel like
center,
they've been showing their true colors.
yeah, absolutely. But then it's easy to show. It's easy to say, okay, that's not going to happen when you're not deciding what legislation gets voted on in the House and the Senate, right? But now this stuff is in front of you. We see what happened with Cory Booker when Bernie put forward that the pharmaceutical reimportation bill, right? That decision he made will haunt him for the rest of his days.
He's trying to make
Right.
up for it.
Yeah, he's trying hard to make up for it, but all you got to do is a little Googling and find out, oh, he's making up for it at the behest of the pharmaceutical industry, right? Because the pharmaceutical, so I mean, he's trying to make up for it by saying that we're going to legalize weed. And now the pharmaceutical industry is moving into the weed game. They're going to try to buy up dispensaries and all other stuff.
Honestly, it was really dumb for them to try to fight that for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, but it's a money game, right? You hold on as long as you possibly can, and you rake in those profits as long as you possibly can. They know they can't hold it forever, but they know they have enough money to hold it off long enough to make more money, right? Because I mean, what is it? I forget what the multiplier is, right? And for every dollar you spend on a federal level politician, you get like 10 times, 15 times. It's a crazy multiplier.
That's the multiplier for a lobbyist?
Yeah, absolutely. For lobbying, for money you spend on lobbying, the return is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I have to look at it. Yeah, on that, but
yeah, no, I mean, it's not common knowledge. I mean, it's not like you see no CNN. You know what I mean? But I mean, the multiplier is absolutely ridiculous, and really, you'd be dumb not to try it if you were in their shoes. You know, but if your fiduciary responsibility is profits, that's what you do, right? You pay the right lobbyist, you pay the right person to whisper in the right person's ear or right group's ear, and you get what you want. You know, it's sad that that's how our system works, but that's how it works.
It's really sad that that's how it works.
Yes.
Speaking about how it works, so in your book on page 30, you equate pragmatism with cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the millennials are pretty much the biggest voting bloc right now, and they're only getting bigger every year. You know, people are turning 18, they're able to vote. Mm-hmm. And Democrats are pretty much ignoring them. And the internet has completely changed the game of how information is disseminated, how things happen.
Mm-hmm. They're trying to turn the clock back, but yeah, it has.
So at a certain point, millennials are going to be able to really force change on the whole system because they're just going to have the sheer number and willpower to do so. The willpower thing is questionable. So I guess my question is, what is the best way to empower them and engage them to use this political capital that I don't think they realize they have yet?
Well, I think like most activists, I don't really consider myself an activist. I'm considering myself a trash talker, but I think that the key is local elections, right? You got to get out there and get these good policies out in front of people, right? Say, okay, here at the local level, there's not much we can do about getting you Medicare for all, but that goddamn it, it's a goal. we're gonna try what we can do at this level, right? So I mean, it's and that's, to my mind, that's what it's really about. It's about getting started at that local level and building, right? And it's I forget who said it, but it said that because the Democrats are a herd right now, right? There's a small herd leading a much larger herd, right? So somebody said, I'm not going to take credit for it. I'm saying somebody said that the herd, the best way to get the herd's attention is a good culling, right? So you got to go out there in 2018 and 2020 and start taking some people out. Not shooting that I'm talking about electorally, right? You have to, nobody goes unopposed, right?
Let the record state you'd mean primarying them and not.
Yeah, primarying them. Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's God. May have to edit that one, darling. But you're gonna have to show people that well, I say we because I'm on your side, the millennial side. I'm young at heart. Some would say immature, but we'll say
And in appearance also.
Oh well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. My kids keep me young. They drive me crazy and keep me young. I think to my mind, again, I think the goal, you got to work locally and you have to work together to take out some of these people on the federal and state level who are in the way. All right. It's got to be grassroots efforts. There's a guy named Jesse Smith in Alabama. Here in Alabama, I've worked with him a few times. He is doing amazing things in his area of Alabama, right? He's no Republican in that section of Alabama is going unopposed, right? Even if you just got to run the guy laying in the ditch and say, hey, you want to run? As long as you got a clean record, let's go, right? It doesn't matter. Win, lose, or draw, nobody goes unopposed because you have to get people out of the mindset that X, Y, Z is going to win and it's just the way it is, right? And if you don't start challenging people, you're never going to change that mindset. Are you going to, if you run 20 people, you take 2 or 3, you get a couple of wins under your belt, people start believing you. People start believing things can change, right? And I think that's a big reason why the Democrats were so bullheaded, right? Because they don't want you to believe things can change, right? Because there were several areas where they could have thrown us a bone, right? They could have thrown us a bone. They could have chosen Bernie to be vice president, right? They could have put they could have chosen a progressive vice president, right? If not Bernie, it could have been Elizabeth Warren, who is not as progressive as we all thought she is, but by American standards, she's pretty progressive, right?
So way better than Tim Kaine.
Way better than Tim Kaine. Oh my God!
Talk about a terrible milk toast choice.
Milk toast. That dude, man, he's not even toast. He's just milk.
I know.
He's
totally
so bland.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah. Every time I see his face, I see the Grinch. I know that's a terrible thing to say.
No, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it. It's all right. and my thing is that, they could, the Perez thing, right? They could have thrown us a bone with Keith Ellison. They could have been less strident when they were building the platform, right? They set us up for failure when they were building the platform, right?
They could have reinstated Obama's ban to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not take lobbying money.
Yeah, right. But their role, to my mind, their role they felt their job was to prove that nothing can change. Therefore, you stop asking for change, right? Well, nothing's going to change anyway. And a lot of people believe that, right? And there's a lot of people now today that don't believe that the Democrats can change, right? And they've moved on to other parties, or they dropped out of the process, or they just given up. And I don't have anything against any of those people. That's your decision to make as an adult, as a voting adult. I don't have a problem with that. But we have to also remember that history shows us that parties change. They change all the time. I guess every 20, 30, 40 years, every parties are going to change, right?
I think some of us are hoping that the Democratic Party changes and goes away like the Whigs.
That's one change. But until that happens, there's still number 2, right? And we've got to deal with them, right? We can't say, okay, the Dems are going to die, so they'll never get any more votes, and we'll wait another 10, 15 years for them to go away totally.
That's so long.
Yeah, but that's what we're looking at, right? I mean, yeah. And then after they're gone, the Republicans are what, facing 10, 15 other parties, right? The DSA, Green Party, Progressive Independent Party, Joe Bob in his garage. I mean, you got all these parties that are gonna, and that's part of one of the issues I have with this. Not wanting to deal with the Democrats anymore. You've got to, and also it's the asshole in me, right? Because I relish whooping that ass in their own house, right? To me, that's what I look forward to. Let's get it, right? Whooping your ass in your old house. You want to send me a message? No, I'm going to send you a message. Here's the message. This is no longer your house. This is my house, right? When you start sending messages like that, along with that culling, people start paying attention. But when you walk away, that means you have very little impact on what they do internally, right? You could be external pressure. There's nothing wrong with that. We need external and internal and external pressure. But with the more people that walk out of that house, the more concentrated that power becomes, with basically the assholes, right? The assholes gain more power because the people who would have made them change or made them shift are gone, right? So that's why I think that we've got to deal with the Democrats. We have no choice but to deal with the Democrats. We can walk around it all we want. Some people call it sheepdogging or whatever. But if suppose you're in a district like I'm here in Alabama, no other party but Democrats or Republicans are viable, and the Democrats are shaky, right? So
I feel you.
It would be crazy for me to say, okay, I'm not saying not being crazy. For me personally, where am I going? Who am I voting for? What am I supporting? If I don't support a Democrat or Republican, what can I do here in Alabama to really make change?
But I mean, you have to support a Democrat because have you seen the other guys?
It's a better deal, obviously. Yeah, it's obviously a better deal. Yeah, they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. And I honestly think, we've seen that poll where the most Americans believe, a large part of the American public believes the Democrats are out of touch. And that's what it's all about. Bernie's handing you the keys to the car. All you got to do is get in and drive it, right? There's this platform that everybody loves. It's just waiting for you to take it up, right? If you don't,
they hate him so much that they don't care.
But I think there's a segment of people that hate him, right? This is a very much smaller segment than many of us thought, right?
The hate percenters.
Yeah, the hate percenters. Yes, it's only 8% of them, right? It's the hate percenters. It's the paid people, the folks that are paid to carry the Democratic order, the Joy Reids of the world, the Rachel Maddows of the world, and their followers, and that's it. That's it, right? But unfortunately, that hate percent also encompasses a lot of leadership in the Democratic Party, a lot of office holders in the Democratic Party, unfortunately, right? So, but we've got to fight them. We've got to fight them. There's no way to get around it.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, hey, you're smarter than I thought. No, it's just playing.
I support attacking it from all angles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm definitely I'm definitely one of the people that doesn't think it's going to be successful from the inside. Yeah, but I support the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I am with it, right? I mean, I'm one of the I guess they're calling it a Dem enter now or a Dem takeover, whatever it is. And both of those the Dem takeover is absolutely possible, right? Because they have the money, we have the votes, right? So they're going to have to either cheat. Obviously they don't mind cheating. They're going to have to cheat in the most obvious ways. Or they're gonna have to bend the knee, and they're really running out of options, especially with all you millennials coming into the program, coming into the system.
I mean, can you believe the people who had a problem with the phrase "bend the knee"?
Yeah, that's all that gaslighting bullshit. People mad about the corn cobs. It's a phallic symbol, man. If you don't shut up, all about the most sensitive. I see why the Republicans call you clown snowflakes. Jesus Christ, everything gets you upset. How do you?
We're calling them cornflakes now, just so you're up to date on the lingo.
Okay, thank you. I got the lingo now. See, that was your old cornflakes.
We just came up with that today, so don't worry, you're not behind.
Okay, all right, good cornflakes. That is all.
Because it's blown up. So.
Yeah, it's all gaslighting. Oh my God, I can't believe you showed me a picture of corn. What? You're anti-corn?
I don't know. It's
it's all corn subsidies now.
Why do people hate corn so much?
I don't know. I don't get it. You should be honored.
It's so crazy.
It is absolutely crazy.
All right, all right. I would love to talk about this corn cobbing thing, but
Another
that's not
time.
what we're here for. All right. So you have a chapter focused on Black poverty
Hmm.
specifically, which I think is a really important thing to talk about because it's not something that I think a lot of Americans are actually really focused on.
Hmm.
What's the percentage of the Black population in America?
To us, depends on what you ask, right? Depends on what time of day it is. It's usually around 12 to 14%, somewhere in that, some of that area.
So you're talking about like the other, I don't know, 80 something percent of people, they don't live that life. So they're not really focused on that.
Yeah,
Um,
we don't have those experiences.
right.
Yeah, and even within, I mean, even though our population is like 40% of our population lives in poverty, which is staggering when you think about it, it's still, it's that's that's what 40 to 12. Anyway, it's a small
Numbers,
because we're
numbers, that's
yeah, that's
numbers.
math. I don't do math in public. I don't. There's a lot of people just ignore us, right? I mean, that's part of the reason why we live apart, right? It's part of the reasons why that that we live in different spaces so that we can be ignored, right? And this is not an accident. This is years of segregation. This is years of housing policy. This is years of I don't know, years of clawing back all the changes during of the civil rights era. I mean, everything has been undermined from the minute those things are signed. People are undermining them, and it's honestly, it's not just Republicans, right? And
Well, yeah, it's definitely Democrats. And I
yeah,
kind of wanted to bring it back to the election. So you
mm,
had a whole paragraph about how people were claiming that Bernie didn't care about Black people. It was definitely this narrative that I saw. I was on Reddit during the election. It was all over Reddit. Bernie doesn't give a shit about Black people. Over and over again, I heard this. What what could Bernie have done better to refute those claims? Because if you look over his C-SPAN footage, you can
mm,
you can clearly see that's not the case.
yeah, absolutely. A lot of people say that he could have done better. He could have reached out better, but I stated it before, and I agree with our friend Bree. She wrote an article that Bernie.
Breathe joy.
Gabriel B. Joy, yeah, she does it. She wrote an article, that Bernie doesn't have a Black problem. He has a pundit problem, and he
I did
does.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and he has a pundit problem, and that was the problem before, right? I mean, it was all obviously it was all engineered by the DNC and operatives to say that Bernie doesn't care about Black people, but there's nothing on the record to prove, and that's why I always ask people, show me a video of him speaking or an official transcript of something he said that offended you as a Black person,
I
right?
usually when people say that that ghetto comment that he made,
Hmm. Yeah,
right?
and that ghetto comment is what triggered this article, right? Because Black ghetto poverty is a entirely different kind of poverty than other types of poverty in this country. The only people that see it on that kind of scale as we do are maybe Hispanics to a degree and Native Americans, right? And even with Native Americans, it's not as concentrated, right? We live in city blocks and city buildings of 10, 15, 20 stores of stories of poor people, right? In these urban areas, and this is nobody sees concentrated poverty like we do, right? So if you look at it from that lens, it's more concentrated, it's more pervasive, it's more persistent for Black people than anybody else. There's no way to get around it, right? That makes it a different beast. You could say it's all poverty spelled the same, but it's not the same, right? And you can say that, and people can say that, a lot of that was, again, trying to take the steam out of Bernie. That's all it was, because the people, the operatives and the DNC operatives, all these people around, they know if Black people latched on to economic populism in big numbers, the Democratic Party is dead. Just like that. They got to change or they're dead, because they only survive because of the Black vote. Right. So if they did not have the Black vote, so if Black people moved toward economic populism, if and if everything aside, right? If you look at Bernie's record and Hillary's record, if you really looked at them honestly, Bernie is a better fit for Black people. No way to get around it because the vast majority of our issues are economically based, right?
But
You're
Hillary
gonna
carries hot sauce in her purse.
yeah, and that's important. And that's just as good as $15 minimum wage. The fact she carries hot sauce in a purse. I mean, that's real, you know. And I think a lot of people. I mean, like for the $15 minimum wage, the free college, all those things. Bernie put that out there. Bernie knows how the system works, no matter what people say. Bernie knows how the system works. If he asks for 15, we'll probably end up with 12 in the short term. But that's bigger than 10. If you ask for 10, you'll get 8. Right? It's better than 7. Right? Right?
Okay, so this is definitely something that I say all the time on Twitter, just from a total business perspective. And I feel like a lot of people have business experience. I don't understand where they're coming up with these fucking ridiculous takes. Like, you have to compromise, blah, blah. You don't start negotiations from a position of compromise.
Nobody in their right mind does.
You always ask for way more than you'll settle for. So this thing, like, you're starting off with less. This is the kind of bullshit that got us the ACA.
Yeah, and that's that pragmatism. It's cowardice. That's why I say pragmatism. This brand of pragmatism is cowardice, right? You know, you've got to be. I'm gonna negotiate with myself before I sit down with my opponent. What?
That's some bullshit.
It's bullshit. Absolutely. So that tells me. These are all educated people. A lot of these people are lawyers and doctors.
I don't know. I wonder. I know people say that they are, but they come up with these.
Okay, they have a lot of these people have degrees. You know, you've got to know that if you're out here and you're facing an opponent that wants nothing good for the people your constituency, you got to play hardball. You can't treat them like they're playing a fair game. They're not. They don't come. You know, the Dems are always bringing a knife to a gunfight, right? I mean, and a butter knife at that.
I feel like they're bringing a spoon to a gunfight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you know, sooner or later you've got to realize that's just part of their hustle, right? That's part of their hustle. They act like they're fighting, but they take the dive every time
because they don't want to change. They don't
want change
on the status quo.
Yeah, they want the status quo, and they think that they can constantly fool the rest of the country into believing that they're not fighting for the status quo; they're fighting for something better. But they're simply not, and it's reflecting now. 1,000 seats since Barack Obama was in office. You had the most popular president in modern history, and now you lost 1,000 seats. Really? How do you do that? How do you do that? Right?
Obama was like the biggest political letdown of my life.
Oh yeah, he was a big letdown. But even so, if you watched him, every time a midterm was coming up, he would toss some things out there for the Democrats to run on.
He was fired up.
Yeah, fired up, ready to go. You know, but he would toss some policy out there. It would be scraps, but it'd be something they could hold on to and say, okay, president said this, let's run with it. They wouldn't even do that. I mean, I didn't believe Obama would do it, but but they wouldn't even do that, right? So that tells me they're working for somebody else, and the obvious answer to that is they're working for their donors, right? What Cenk Uygur says, work for the people that pay you, right? It is what it is, right?
Okay, I want to.
Did I answer your question?
I think maybe. I did want to talk a little bit more about this Black poverty thing because I think it's an issue that's not really focused on.
No, not enough, not nearly enough.
And in your book, you wrote that this whole argument that Bernie didn't care about Black poverty undermined how important people are taking white privilege these days, because it's a recent thing. People didn't really think about the white privilege that they had before recently. I mean, there was obviously a few people who always thought about it, but more and more people are
we're understanding the argument. Absolutely.
Understanding that white privilege is a thing. It's real. It exists. It impacts their lives in a way that, you know, they can't ever think about because it's so ingrained in everything that they do.
Absolutely.
So you talk about how this take on Bernie not caring about Black people and Black poverty undermined all of the attention that this white privilege argument was getting. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, like you said, it took us years to get to the point where white privilege was taken seriously, right? I think the term popped up in like 2006, right? And it's based on, I mean, it's based on solid evidence. I mean, if you look at American policy, like we spoke about a little earlier, if you look at American policy as economic policy over the last, I don't know, the last 200 years, everything was geared towards white people gaining more than everybody else, right? And you can see, people can say, well, that's not what it was. Is you got to work harder. That's all bullshit, right? This is what the policy did, and this is what the policy was meant to do, right? And if you, I may just go further back to slavery too, but I mean, just saying in recent memory, right? Um, this country is, since they eradicated the Indians and brought us here as slaves, nearly eradicated the Native Americans, I'm sorry, and brought us here as slaves, this country has been geared for white people to prosper. Right? And there's no way to get around that. And people are finally realizing that, okay, what black people were going through is something different. White people have a certain amount of privilege based on their position in this country, and people are taking that seriously. But now you say that black people, number one, black people aren't poor. That was that was one people. I'm not poor. It's just you are, right? I'm not poor. But the numbers say you are, right? The numbers say that the average black woman with a college degree is $11,000, has a negative $11,000 wealth position, because they had to go deep in a hole to go to college, right?
And I think some of that has to do with what, generational wealth, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's absolutely generational wealth. That's a big piece of it. But and that's a big piece of the poverty thing, right? Because if you never had an opportunity to gain wealth, that means even no matter how things get, if you've got wealth, no matter how bad things get, well, to a degree, at least you got something you can sell off, land, a house, something you can sell off. But once you hit that bottom, or you've never had anything to build on, you can't win. It's never going to be a time you can win unless a miracle happens. And one of your kids is born 6'10" and can dunk a basketball, right? That's your way out, right? Otherwise, wages are going down, and wages for black people are lower than other people, right? And no matter what education level we attain, there's a statistic out there that a white person with a high school diploma and a criminal record is more likely to get a job or more likely to be employed than a black man with a bachelor's degree.
Really?
Yes. That's how crazy things are for black people, right? And now you're going to tell me that, number one, black people aren't poor. And then number two, you're going to tell me that black people, well, white folks is poor too. We know white people are poor, but they're not poor like we're poor. I mean, you look at the statistics, the average, even on the lower end of the scale with white people, there is a spectrum, right? There's a spectrum of wealth levels, or even income levels, right? It's got to separate wealth from income, right? Because we're not winning on either side of that, by the way, right? Our income has gone up a little bit, but our wealth has not gone up, mostly because the cost of living has also gone up, right? So, and when you look at it, by any measure, we are doing worse than white people, right? There's no way. There's a few people. There's LeBron James. There's Oprah.
I always like to bring those people up.
Yeah, they'll bring those people in.
President.
Yeah, and just the fact that you can name those few people speaks volumes, right? And okay, so who else? But off the top of my head, I can name, I don't know how many white billionaires.
Every last one of them.
Yeah, really. Yeah, they're everywhere, right? I mean, they're everywhere, right? And it's so commonplace for white people that white people believe that they're supposed to have a couple 100,000 in the bank. It just is what it is, And honestly, if everything was geared in my way, why not? but I think that people were a lot of it was driven by Democrats scared that black people were going to buy into economic poverty and economic populism. That's a big thing. That was a big one, and they had to find a way to turn that around.
But can we just talk about that for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Why are they so against embracing that? That's something that would help everybody, which is supposed to be their whole shtick.
Donors. That's all it is. It's donors, and some of them, a lot of them are millionaires or billionaires, right? They don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to raise their own taxes. No matter how good that would be for the country, they don't want to raise their own taxes. A lot of them, no matter what they say, they're Randians. They believe in what Ayn Rand says. It's that I'm rich because I'm better. Right? No, you're rich because you had better opportunities, and you were in because your family, because you have more social capital. Your father or your mother can get you a job with Google, can get you an internship with IBM. These things don't happen to poor Black people. They just don't.
To
Right?
your point, I just want to talk about Deborah Messing for a second.
That was ridiculous. But go ahead.
Because she's like this hardcore loyal Democrat and
Sadly.
champion and hates Jill Stein and the whole shebang. And was it like last week, Bannon introduced his new tax plan, which was like tax the rich more, which honestly is, everybody's like, yes, do that.
Why not? Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And when Deborah Messing tweeted, she's like, "This is disgusting."
Yeah, she was acting like it was like I don't know, a crime against humanity.
Damn, pay your taxes, bitch.
Yeah, pay more taxes. You got more, you make more. And that's always been my argument. This country is structured in a way that helped you become a millionaire or a billionaire. Right? It's time to put some back in the system. The more you make, the more you pay. I don't know how hard. I don't know why that's hard for people.
I have a problem reconciling that these people are calling themselves Democrats, which are supposed to be, the party of the people, and they're saying things like this. Like, are you sure you're a Democrat?
Mm-hmm.
Are you
sure? No, I mean,
but
that's
a Republican.
But I mean, a lot of these people, you scratch the surface, you're going to find a lot of former Republicans, right? They're going to find out because the Democrats moved right and the Republicans moved off the cliff, right? So you got this party walking towards you and the other one just taking off. There's a lot of them that are former Republicans, right? And I mean whether that's good or bad, I'll let those individuals decide or let other people decide. But I mean that's just a reality. I mean even if you, I mean you've seen a lot of the arguments I get in on Twitter. A lot of these people, the minute they get under pressure, here they come with the Republican talking points. Right out. I mean,
that's their like main thing at the gate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you ask them,
pie in the sky.
You can't do that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You got to earn that. Whoa, wait a minute. What's that? Huh? What do you mean? You got to earn. That sounds mighty Republican to me.
Yeah, I've
pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Many a person on Twitter. Are you sure you're a Democrat?
You get out of here. You're not even a liberal. Jesus Christ.
You're socially liberal.
Yeah, and that's a neoliberal bullshit. Yeah, I don't care who you marry. Yeah, that means you got a cousin who's gay, and then that's what you get. That's what you give a shit about, right? And that's what that means to me. I mean, not that I'm against gay marriage. I'm just saying that's where they're coming from, right? Because
personally know somebody.
Yeah, exactly. They have a personal connection to these things, right? But again, they don't have a personal connection to poor Black people. They just simply don't.
You wrote an article not too long ago that touched on a statistic about this, about how many people have in their circle a Black person.
Yeah.
And this statistic was it was shocking.
It was jarring. Yeah, it's absolutely jarring.
Like, what?
Yeah, it's true. If you don't know, it's hard to care about the plight of people if you don't have them in your social circle.
What was your statistic? It was like 70%.
75%, 75%. Yeah, 75%. Some people say it's closer to 80, but 75% is the number I could find that was solid. 75% of white people in this country do not have a close person of color in their social circle. So when you have a barbecue, it is monochrome like a motherfucker. Right? No spicy food, thank God for you. But that is
no. But Hillary carries hot sauce. She can.
That's why, because she's ready. She's ready. Hillary's ready. So if you invite Hillary, you don't have to have spicy food. You'll have enough hot sauce for everybody. But and that's jarring. But that's engineered, right? It's because of how we live and where we live, right? If Black people are poor by any measure, the vast majority of Black people are not doing well financially, and those that are very precarious in those positions. They are one job loss away, one paycheck away, or Danny Glover said, what's the name of that damn movie? Saints of Fort Washington. It was him and Danny Glover
I was
and
gonna say Angels in the Outfield.
no, it was him and Matt Damon. It's really good. It was Saint of Fort Washington, I think it was a really good movie. They were both homeless, and Danny Glover's pointed to a guy with a walking around a briefcase in a suit and pointed to a guy. He said he was talking, but he was basically mentoring Matt Damon. Matt Damon was schizophrenic and he just became homeless, right? Or recently became homeless.
I've never even heard of this movie.
Yeah, and Danny Glover had been homeless for a long time, and he took Matt Damon under his wing, right? And he said, and they were sitting there, and he and Matt Damon were talking, and Danny Glover pointed to a guy across the street. He said, "See that guy with the suit on and the briefcase? He is 2 paychecks away from homelessness." And I thought, holy shit. And this is like in the late 90s or early 2000s. I forget when this movie came out. And I'm like, holy shit, that is true, right? And this is before the crash. Can you imagine how many people are 2 paychecks away from homelessness right now?
I feel like I probably am.
I mean, it can happen to anybody.
Absolutely.
That's how precarious our situation is. Now imagine how it is for Black people, right? Imagine how it was precarious before. It's even more precarious now. And to say back to your what we were talking about before, and to say that Black people aren't poor or black poverty is not different from other types of poverty is number one, stupid, right? And I mean, I can't find a better word for it. It is a facile statement, but
I feel like it's ignorant.
It is a completely ignorant, and people don't understand. Even the people that do understand, because I don't believe that a lot of these people like Joy Reid don't understand that. I refuse to believe that she does not understand that, because these statistics are widely available.
She's paid not to understand.
She's paid not to understand, absolutely, right. And and all these people that, I mean, they got their talking points, because once people realize they're poor, then you're getting closer to, what do I have to lose, right? Then you're talking about people who are going to try to make drastic changes fast because they have nothing to lose, right? And that's the type of voter that the Democrats are afraid of, and they don't want any parts of that at all, at all.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna move on.
I still don't know if we answered your question.
It's okay.
All right.
I have another question.
Okay.
So in chapter 6, you said something that I thought was kind of profound, because it's not something that I really considered that much in my life. It's just not the way I was raised. It's not how I was brought up. It was, I think I was raised in a very different atmosphere than I think most people were. But you said our gain was always perceived as their loss. I think I'd really like all of the white people to think about that for a second and what it means. Because it's basically essentially saying that anytime a person of color has an achievement in their life, it's taking away from an achievement that a white person could possibly have, basically. That's essentially the gist of what you're saying. Absolutely. And that's just, it's a line of thinking that it's so strange to me to think that people are out there thinking that, but I know they are, because after Obama became president, we saw the rise in the alt-right. Like, this became a thing where people were just so dead set on that. And it's really disturbing to me. But these are people that are passing down this line of thinking to their next generation. So like, this is growing and festering into young people, which I guess my question is, what could be done to kind of curb this, stop it from perpetuating?
Oh, your mother, Xavier. One of the things that I think, this is my 2 cents. I mean, if we're seeing it right now with this hatred toward hatred for affirmative action, right? And honestly, I don't know what, because of the status of the economy, right? Everything is a zero-sum game to people, right? Because there's only X amount of jobs, there's only X amount of good jobs, there's only X amount of good houses, there's only X amount of good apartments, there's only X amount of of capital is only all this engineered scarcity we face, and people believe, especially white people toward black people or people of color, that anytime they get something, they've taken something from a white person, because whatever a black person gets, there's somebody just a white person just as good who could do the same job, right? And that's how a lot of people view it, right? Sadly, but that's just how a lot of people view it. But they don't realize that affirmative action with black people over the last, 50, 60 years, is only correcting affirmative action for white people for the previous 300 years, 340 years, right? This is a corrective action. This is we're trying to give people an opportunity to gain in spaces where they would not have before. There's another statistic, I don't know if I ever wrote about it, but 80%, hold on a second, please.
You're blowing up.
Yeah, hold on just a second. Yes, call your mother. Yeah, I'm on the phone. I'm on the interview.
Man, I'm glad I don't have any kids.
I'm back. Teenagers. What were we talking about?
The alt-right and correcting the situation that slavery caused. Affirmative action.
This affirmative action, this hating, everything is a zero-sum game, right? So every time a black person gets something, no matter what that is, number one, they don't deserve it. Number two, a white person should have had it, right? And that's how people view it, right? So it does a lot of things. It makes people think that they're better than others. It makes people think that black people never earn anything, no matter how hard we work, no matter how much labor we've put into this country. None of that matters. And that's just the way a lot of people think. As I said, you see this in the affirmative action fight. You see it in almost every aspect of our life when race is brought up, right? And is there a way to change it for the future generations? We've just got to fight and show that that's not the way it works. It's just not how the world works.
It's really just so upsetting to me that it's 2017 and people are still persisting with this line of thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, when the economy's bad, people tend to believe these things. People tend to believe that somebody's getting something they're not. Right, there's that envy thing, how come that black guy has a big house? How come he's not supposed to have a big house? I'm supposed to have a big house, right? And all this envy in this engineered scarcity, and I stress that it's engineered. This is not, since let's talk even on the short term. Since the crash, 2008, 2009, since the crash, 90+% of the recovery went to the top 5%, right? That's engineered. Wages could have gone up. All kinds of stuff could have happened, but none of that did, right? All that money went straight to the top 5%. And that makes people feel, it makes people insecure, number one, in their economic financial well-being, right? And then they look to blame people. They look to find reasons, all right? And we as black people, we've been a good scapegoat for many, many moons here in this country, and we still are. So, I mean, I don't know what can we do to change it? Time and keep fighting. That's all we can do.
That's so depressing.
It is depressing, yeah.
I'm sorry. And it must be even more depressing for you. Yeah,
it's depressing, and I mean that's part of the reason why I'm on the left, is that you hear about a lot of people. I have friends who are Republicans, conservatives, whatever, and they're big on pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and all that other stuff. But you got to have boots. You've got to be in position to take advantage of these opportunities, and there just aren't a lot of people that have those opportunities, because it's a combination of things. It's access to capital, it's social capital, and a decent education. All three of these things we've been specifically blocked from, right? Access to capital. Most black people can't even go near a bank if they have one in their neighborhood, right? Then never mind get a loan, right? and then you have social capital. We live separate from the people that have the money. So where do you find the social capital, right? If you don't have any power, you don't have any social capital. right? And if you don't have any money, you don't have any power, right? And it's just the way our country works, right? And then you have education. I mean, education for Black people is shitty because where we live, right? We live in these neighborhoods with that are where the education system is based on whatever money you can scrape up from local taxes. If the neighborhood's shitty, the local property taxes aren't. You're not going to have any money in those local property taxes, and all three of these things, the social capital, the access to capital, money, capital being money, and a good education. These are the three things to make it, and we've been systematically blocked from all three, and there's really no way to get around it. And people can say, "Well, do this, do that." Don't give me that bullshit. This is true. This is true. We've been blocked from these things by policy and practice. You just can't. You can't tell me that otherwise. I'm depressing the shit out of you, ain't I?
Yeah, you are.
Sorry.
I just feel like I grew up in New Orleans, so I just think I have such a different experience about all of this, just because it was a much different place than I think most people live in.
Yeah, I mean, but even so, even in New Orleans, on the other side of the tracks, yeah, there's a lot of people of mixed race in New Orleans. There's a lot of partying, a lot of fun. But you cross those tracks, there's a lot of Black poverty. It just is.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's any major city we get in this country, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. Sometimes I grew up relatively sheltered, right? I mean, I grew up in a relatively rough town, but I went to private schools. So I was relatively sheltered until I got out of school, but it was still there, because I hung out with these kids. I hung out with people who had less than me, right? And also hung out with people that had more than me, right? So it's I don't know, it is depressing, but like I said, all we can do is keep informing people and keep fighting. That's all we can do.
All right. Let's move on from this.
All right.
Not that I want to end that conversation. I feel like it's a really important conversation to have.
Yeah, maybe another time. Maybe we can have somebody like a Noah or somebody else that is more versed in these issues than I am. That way,
I
you
don't
can
think
get
you're
more.
not well versed. I just
but there are people out there that know these numbers and these causes and all these things better than me. I'm decently well informed about these things, but I think maybe a good conversation to have and maybe a good book to be written about.
Yeah, I just think a lot of us are so sheltered from what's actually happening, and that's intentional. I don't think people want to think about it.
Absolutely intentional.
But when you think about it, when you talk about it in this kind of situation, it's just it's sad. It's upsetting.
It's sad, and it's hard to walk around. People you can hear a lot of things like what we've been talking about. You'll hear a whole different story from people like conservatives, even Democrats. You'll hear a whole different story from what we're talking about. But the numbers don't lie. The numbers do not lie.
All right. So on a different topic.
Dove that.
About Hillary's foreign policy, which it's totally different. So she's known to be very hawkish. That's kind of her thing. And you wrote about it a little bit in your book. And both of us have a military background.
Yeah. Cool.
We don't say that in the Air Force.
I know.
I don't know if we have any kind of saying in the Air Force.
Probably not.
Hillary has made this claim in the past that she tried to join the Marines. I gotta tell you, I feel like I'm probably one of the girliest girls imaginable, and I never grew up thinking I was going to join the military. So joining the Air Force was like, it was a big for me. It was really.
I'm just kidding.
No, it was really easy. But it was the military, and I just can't even. My grandfather was a retired Marine. He was kind of a badass. Like he was a drill sergeant. Hillary. Do you think she was lying about that? I don't know.
I think she's full of shit on that one. I mean, it may be something she thought about as a kid. I'd like to be a Marine. Everybody thinks about all kinds of crazy shit.
Thought about being a flight attendant.
You don't think about these things. You may think about these things when you're a kid, but to say you tried to join, I'm not buying that one. But who am I to say that she did or didn't? But I don't believe it.
I don't either. as someone who's been in the military, I just don't.
Mhm.
I don't see.
I don't see it. I don't see it at all. But stranger things have happened, I guess.
All right, that was just to change the topic. Okay.
Okay, good. Palate cleanser.
All right. So the next one in chapter 8, you talk about Cenk a lot and
Mhm.
how he kind of shaped certain things during the primaries.
Mhm.
Since that happened, um, left Twitter is not such a big fan of Cenk anymore. I can't say that they were in the first. I was not on Twitter during the primaries. I don't
Mhm.
know how everybody
It was
felt
a
about it.
nightmare. Yeah.
But
It was a nightmare.
have,
It was a nightmare during the primaries. Absolute nightmare.
have your views changed on him since then?
On Cenk, my views have changed a little bit. I don't watch them as much as I used to. I don't know if I move further left or they move closer to the center. I'm leaning towards they move closer to the center. Um, and that's my thoughts anyway. I don't know how that's that and a nickel will get you a cup of coffee maybe. But I think
Where is that?
yeah, exactly. Wherever coffee's free,
Back
it'll
in
get it free.
1975.
Yeah, exactly. And and so I don't, again, I don't watch them. I don't watch them that often. I think they moved too close to the center. I think they've become a little mean spirited over there. People that didn't vote for Hillary in the election, they kind of treat those folks, us, because I didn't vote for Hillary either. They treat us like we were stupid. Like we're garbage people that don't understand how the real world works, right? But like we discussed before, they had over $1 billion to spend to make this right, and they didn't. It's not my job. My job is to vote for the best person I think fits my values or could help us into the future, right? That's my
No,
job.
they spent their $1 billion advertising in places that they knew they were going to get to drive up the popular vote instead of the places that they needed.
Yeah, yeah, and they made so many missteps, and then to turn around and blame it on the voters, the nebulous voters who didn't, who wrote in, Donald Duck or didn't vote at the top of the ticket. This is what happens when you have shitty politics.
Can we
You
just talk
know.
about this top of the ticket thing though?
Mhm.
Just really quickly.
Mhm.
So before the election,
Okay.
right? I remember, at least on Reddit. I wasn't on Twitter, so I don't know what was happening in the
Yeah.
Twitterverse.
Hmm.
But on Reddit, there were a lot of people saying, if you don't want to vote for Hillary, don't vote for Hillary, but make sure you vote down ticket Dem.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
This was a common talking point before
Hmm.
the election.
Same on Twitter.
And then I think Michigan, I think there was like 80,000 people who left the president
Hmm.
blank, but voted down ticket.
Hmm.
And people are still blaming them, even though they were told, look, don't worry about the president. Like Hillary's got it. Vote
Hmm.
down.
Hmm.
That's what they said.
Yeah,
Obviously, she
yeah.
didn't get it because
Yeah. I mean, she won the popular vote. Not Michigan, but she won the popular vote. But
you had people like that kind of situation where
mhm.
they were said one thing before the election, and then shit didn't turn out the way they wanted it. So all of a sudden, it was like it's your fault. You didn't do this.
What's wrong with you? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of a lot of us on the left do it. I'm not a big fan of uh, smarter than thou Twitter, smarter than thou liberals, right? Because they make it seem as if you didn't vote for Hillary, there was something wrong with you, or you were too dumb to understand how the world works.
Yeah, I wish,
All this,
wish the
all
eye
this.
rolling could make
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
boss.
exactly. Sam Cedar does it. Michael Brooks does it. Um, well, they did it. I don't know if they're still doing it. I don't listen to any of them as much as I used to. I try to use my podcast time for learning, and it really wasn't much to learn there anymore. So that's how I view Cenk right now. There may be a time I go back to him, but one thing about Cenk, nobody in this country has done more to get money out of politics than Cenk Uygur. What Wolfpack has done and is trying to do with a constitutional amendment, that's real. That's real people out there on the ground taking Cenk's plan into the streets, right, and making things happen, right, and that's real. Nobody I know has done anything like that as far as anything like that about taking money out of politics.
So what's with this big smear talking point that I keep hearing about? Dark money and Soros and the Young Turks. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's Smith and his crew. It's to my mind, it's just a smear. Does George Soros fund these quote unquote left leaning organizations? He does fund some, right? Yeah, it is what it is, right? Do I believe he's the center of all evil? Hell no, I don't. but I think it's just a smear to keep people from listening to the message that's being put out. And I think there are some people that think that there should be no money involved in politics, and I'm one of those people. But we're not on that planet yet, right? Right now, you got to fight with what you got, right? And I believe that you have to use the other guy's tools to win, because those are the only tools that matter at this point. Well, the vote matters, right? But those tools.
I will say,
Mhm.
not to disregard your point entirely, because I do agree with it, kind of.
Mhm.
But
Kind of. Go ahead.
well, just Bernie kind of.
He did. He changed.
He proved that wrong.
He did on the national level. Now we got to remember that, right?
National level.
On the national level, yeah. But on the local level, it's still, local cash makes things happen, right? Especially after we saw what happened in 2016 with the DNC just sucking money back up from the provinces, right? We saw that. We didn't give it and put it back in Hillary's coffers. So it's
Hillary
local
Victory
money.
Fund, yeah,
Hillary Victory Fund, yeah, and we have to be cognizant of that. I wish it was different. I wish all that mattered was your platform, how you attract people to that platform, and the votes you gain from attracting people to a really good platform. I really wish it worked like that, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Rich people can influence. Rich people in corporations can influence hundreds of thousands, millions of votes just doing commercials. And it is what it is. And then that's the ground we're on. We've got to fight to it as best we can in those situations. But we have to be a little more innovative on the left, because we don't have that kind of money. We just don't. There's patriotic millionaires or whoever the hell they are, but if they're really patriotic millionaires, we should have patriotic millionaire television station, right? All these podcasters and YouTubers can get together like Link TV and all these Democracy Now.
I wanted to do something for clarification, because you said we don't have that much money on the left. So the true left, we do not have that much money.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the people who are pretending to be on the left, the centrists,
they
got oodles and oodles of money.
Yeah, because there's plenty of money there. Because that's because they're what they're fighting for is nothing that's going to help us, right? You get plenty of money from the military-industrial complex and all these other people and organizations, right, to keep the things the way they are and slowly shift them to the right as far as policy is concerned. That's what they're paying for.
Yeah, right? I just wanted to make it clear that they're not.
Okay, not a problem. They're not on the left at all. But I agree 100%. But what we've got shoe leather and we've got people, right? And we've got that much more than they do. Right?
I got $27.
Yeah, and that $27 goes a long way on the national level. Right? It goes a long way. So we've got to continue to fight in the world we're in. And that's one of the things that we, as people on the left, need to understand, that we've got to fight on the battlefield, where the battlefield is. We can shift that battlefield sometimes, but sometimes we just have to fight where the hell we are.
You just got to bring a gun to a gunfight.
Yeah, exactly. As my teacher used to tell me, fight the guy in front of you. Don't worry about nothing else. Fight the guy in front of you. The rest of that shit doesn't matter. Fight the guy in front of you. And that's what we need to do.
All right. So chapter 9. So you wrote a sentence that I really think you should have used as an article title.
I drop a gem on occasion.
Dispatches from the Billary Express were frequent and deafening. Why wasn't that an article title, by the way? It should have
Next
been.
Next
time.
time.
What a missed opportunity that was.
My bad.
Seriously, that needs to be an article title. Okay, so not related to that whatsoever. I've noticed a trend on Twitter that there seems to be a lot of erasing of women and people of color on the left, and it's continuing to happen. Like every single day I log onto Twitter and I see like a new argument from one of the normal center people.
The usual suspects,
Yeah, that's a good name for them. The usual suspects, just saying that there aren't black people on the left or women on the left. They're all for Hillary. Nobody likes Bernie. Bernie bros, blah blah blah. The election ended 8 months ago. Like 8 months ago.
Yep.
It's been a long time. Why have they not gotten over this?
Hillary's viability in 2020.
God, no.
That's what this is all about. This is what that's what the Russia thing was all about, trying to keep Hillary viable. All right.
No.
I think they've kind of given up on that. I think that's where Kamala Harris, I think that's why the trial balloons for Kamala Harris. I think because donors are even leaving them donors, their donors are shifting over to Trump. Right. So they got the message, but too late, right? But all of this initially was about Hillary's viability, and now it's going to be about Kamala Harris's viability. Right?
Okay, well, I gotta say this: Hillary obviously wasn't as viable as everybody thought because she's not president.
Yeah, she never was, right?
Kamala Harris
just got in the game. Still too much baggage.
Yeah.
You're a prosecutor in a city that loves to lock up black folks, and then you become the AG of the state.
Not just a city that loves to do that, but has spoken on record about like the importance of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she said some questionable shit.
Yeah, she has said a whole lot of questionable shit, and I'm sure we have only seen the tip of the iceberg, right? And people are running around here calling everybody sexist and racist for saying she's not what they say they are. They say she is, but it's like the boy that cried wolf, right? People are realizing they're full of shit.
So there's this article that came out recently that talked about Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and someone else. I don't remember who else it was.
Deval Patrick.
Yes, and I saw a tweet from Amanda Marcotti.
Oh, God.
And she said, what do these people have in common? Like, why don't left people like them? And it was obviously an implication like the left doesn't like black people. Like that's the point she was trying to get across.
It's dumb. It's ahistoric. It's inaccurate. If any logical person on the planet knows, or any person that understands history knows that black people historically have to be on the left in order to get what the hell we need, right? We historically have to be on the left in order to get what we need, right? When we talk about the Civil War, civil rights, black liberation, African black liberation, black liberation gospel. Liberation itself is on the left. Communist, socialist, whatever it is, it's what in order for us to get a fair shot, we have to be on the left. The problem is those folks think they're on the left, and they're they say they're on the left. I don't even know if they even believe they're on the left anymore, right? They say they're on the left.
I don't think they care.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because most of them are getting paid, right?
Yeah.
So, or they already have some money they're trying to keep getting their taxes raised, right? So they've decided that they're as far left as Americans should be. Therefore, everybody else is just simply unreasonable, or they're racist, or they're social, or they're racist, or they're misogynist, or whatever. Right. So therefore, people should stop listening to any complaints about these people whatsoever.
That's just such a disingenuous thing to say. Like, you can't have any legit criticisms, because if you do, you're racist or sexist or whatever is applicable to this chosen candidate that we have.
Yeah. And a lot of that is, again, about their viability, right? Because it's going to be, until, you don't say anything bad about them because you're racist and sexist. And then, 2019 is going to be, well, it's all we got. We can't do nothing else. Now you got to get behind them. That's the hustle they're running.
And we saw this in the the election last year, everybody's like, you don't like Hillary because you're sexist. You don't want a strong woman. And you have people who are like, well, what if I voted for Jill Stein? What, like, is she not a woman? Doesn't she have a vagina? I don't understand.
Indoor plumbing and everything.
And I feel
has a natural hair color.
I feel the same way about Kamala Harris. Like, what if I'm rooting for Nina Turner? Do you guys not give a shit about her? Like, she's a woman.
They see Nina as a traitor.
Black woman.
Yeah, they see Nina as a traitor. She doesn't count, right? I mean, that's how shallow this whole thing is, right? I'm gonna fight for black women. But what about Nina Turner?
Not her. Not her.
Cape is in the cleaners, huh? All right.
She's a Bernie bro.
Yeah, she's a Bernie. She doesn't count. She's a Bernie bro. She turned in her indoor plumbing.
She's always shitting on the Democratic Party.
She's trying to fix the Democratic Party, but man,
people shitting on Nina Turner. It makes me so angry.
Yeah, about you. Oh my God, it is, and it's utterly ridiculous. This woman hasn't said anything bad about anybody. She hasn't hurt anybody.
Everybody is talking about how she's such a traitor and she's done all of these things. She's literally only saying, like, the party needs to do this to get support. The party needs to fight for the people. The people don't give a fuck about Russia. The people in Flint, Michigan are worried about their jobs. They're worried. They want fucking clean water.
How hard is that to understand? Yeah.
I like.
This is not rocket science at all.
It's so. I'm sorry. This is why I don't feel like the Democratic Party can be saved.
And that's fine. A lot of people believe that, but my position.
I hope it can be. I hope it can be.
Yeah, and it has to be sizable if we're going to get anything done in the near term, right?
I support the attempt.
Yeah, that has to be our near term strategy, is to turn the Dems, because there is not one there's not one third party, fourth party, whatever you call them, that is ready for the national level.
That's so
not the Greens, not DSA, nobody. DSA just celebrated having 25,000 people in the party. That's not nationally viable. So what are you going to do in the short term?
But that's my question. That's so exciting for them.
Yeah, I'm happy for them.
It's not.
Yeah, but the short and medium term?
Not an election winning strategy.
What do you do? What do you do? I mean, there's a lot of hardcore folks that say, you know what, they're gonna have to come to us. Da 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 da. They show they show no interest in coming to us. You have to make them come to you. And then again, you got to start calling that herd without violence. Just got to primaries and folks. Primary.
We're not killing people. We're primarying them.
Yes, I do not believe in violence unless it is in self-defense. That is my standard, and I'm sticking to it.
I'll throat punch somebody though.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with throat punch.
I'm saying. All right, let's move on.
All right.
So you kind of talk about feminism a little bit, and I want to say it's in your last chapter. I don't even know anymore.
All good.
So Hillary Clinton has her own version of feminism, which I personally disagree with. I've actually written about how much I disagree with, and I know I'm not the only one who disagrees with how she feels about things, but I just kind of wanted to know, how has that specifically translated to you and various women in your family? Because a lot of people considered her running as kind of like this glass ceiling for women. And when it didn't happen, it was just the end of the world. Like, women were never going to accomplish anything.
Stop making women when Hillary didn't make it. There's no more women.
Women were never going to do anything again.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is, just simply her fan club, that had this a lot of hopes about having a woman president, but she just wasn't the one. I want to have a woman president in the future.
I do too. I gotta say, I would have been insulted if it was her though, as a woman.
Yeah, I can understand that, because she spent her whole career trying to not be a woman, so to speak, right? She's been trying. That's a big part of her hawkishness, right? To prove that she's not like the quote unquote women who are sensitive and have feelings and stuff, right? That's a big part of. She wants to be talk tough as tough as the bad guy, as the guys do. That's what wanted to be a Marine. She wants to be like the guys, right? I'm not like those softy women.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's her shtick. That's her shtick.
Her shtick, by the way, she
Mm.
made this one comment, and I'm never going to be able to get over it. Not in my
Mhm.
entire life will I ever be able to get over this comment.
All right.
She said, "Women are the true victims of war," which, as a woman who has served in the military, I took really personally. And hundreds and thousands of women have served in the military, and I feel like everybody should be equally offended by that comment. Because
Mhm.
it kind of implies that women are at home waiting, like twiddling their thumbs, waiting for their men to come home, and sometimes they
Mhm.
don't come home, so they're widows and
Mhm.
they're distraught over it. And it's women are serving Hillary since
Yeah.
since like
Yep.
over 50 years. Women have been serving.
In the
What the
combat arms,
fuck?
no less now, right?
Like, what in the actual fuck? Come to the present.
Yes, but that's Hillary, right? I mean, she's a different beast.
But she's not some bastion of feminism.
No, not at all. Not at
You
all. Her
can't, you
brand.
can't, you can't like claim to be this
Hmm.
ultimate feminist fighting for women and then make fucking comments like that.
Hmm. Oh,
I'm
I'm gonna
sorry if
say
you have to edit that out. I don't know.
no. Don't worry about that. I'm gonna say something very unpopular, and then I'm gonna get cussed out for this, but that's all right. Bluff front on Twitter. If it were not for being married to Bill Clinton, would Hillary Clinton be where she is today? How much feminism are we talking about if everything as far as you've gotten in your entire adult life would not have been possible if you weren't married to that guy?
Hot damn, you are going to receive a lot of hate for that.
Yeah, yeah, I am, right? If you had not been married to the
So,
president, you would have not gotten there, right? She would just be some backbencher somewhere that nobody even talks about,
so
right?
I have two takes on this.
Okay, come on.
My first take is that the only reason I think Bill sought a career in politics in the first place is because I think she pushed him to it.
That may be true.
So I think she always kind of had this underlying intent, and you can see it with the 2008
Hmm.
primaries and
Absolutely.
how fucking dirty she fought during that. By the way, everybody forgot about that.
Yeah, especially black folks. They forgot all about that.
Um,
I didn't.
but
I didn't.
you could see this drive that she had to be in
Hmm.
politics and to be this political figure. So I have to think, like, when she was pushing, because I feel like she pushed Bill. I think
I'm
she
sure she did
saw
to a degree. I'm sure she did.
Bill was
At the very
charismatic.
least, they were equal partners in this.
Yeah, I feel like
Very.
he thought Bill's charismatic and he could do it. And he had the personality to, and obviously he did. He pulled it off. He was president for 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I,
he's
I,
super smart. Both of them are brilliant people, individuals.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I think she was the driving force behind that. So if he had not been president, say if they were never married, I think she would have found another avenue. I
Yeah,
just
she would.
think
Yeah, I'm sure
that's
she
the
would
kind
have.
of person she was.
I'm not saying she's not capable. I've said it in an article before that she's a brilliant woman, right? She's not as quick on her feet as I would like, but she's a
She's
brilliant
a
woman, right?
terrible politician.
Yeah. She's a terrible politician. She's a stick in the mud, right? But I mean, that's just to my mind, that's who she is. Um, but I guess my point is that she knew that she needed the husband to lead the charge, right? If she's going to get there, somebody's got to be her lead blocker, right? If she's trying to be
Yeah.
president, right? She knew she had to find a way to shorten the path. And if Bill had not won, or if Bill had not been president, or if they didn't have all that money behind them from through the DLC, all these things had to fall into place. I'm sure she was a driver for a lot of them, but had she not married Bill Clinton, she would not be
Yeah,
president. She would not be looking at becoming president.
she's a total second wave feminist.
Damn. It
She
is
is.
what it is. Yeah. I mean, it's what it is.
She was, living her life in a man's world by men's rules, and
Hmm.
that's how she came up.
Yep. Absolutely.
And she played by those rules, and those rules are dirty.
Mm-hmm.
and she played
Absolutely.
dirty.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I didn't say this. Somebody, I forget who it was. It said the Clintons are a crime family. They
I think
treat
everybody said that. Like,
yeah, they treat politics like a crime family would,
they
right?
do, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean people gave Trump a lot of shit about him wanting people to be loyal to him. But is that any different from the Clintons when you think about
I'm
it?
pretty sure that they spelled out in Shattered that Hillary had loyalty scores for
Yeah,
people.
absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, people act like that, that Trump it was crazy for wanting people to be loyal to him, but what in Clinton world, that's loyalty is everything. You're not going to rise in Clinton world unless you kiss the ring, right? And I mean, it is what it is. You mad at me, but I mean, it is what it is.
Okay, I want to say my question was about how Hillary Clinton's feminism translated to your family, and I think ultimately
It didn't.
my hope is that it did not at all.
It did not at all. I mean, because my wife is white, but she's from overseas, so it really doesn't count for her. But my mom's black. I mean, it doesn't. I don't have any sisters. I have a sister-in-law, but I mean, for black women, her type of feminism doesn't it doesn't um it doesn't click because, like we talked about before, black people don't have that same sort of social capital, right? Because her type of feminism, her type of rising to the top requires social capital, and black people don't have that type of social capital
You
unless
don't
they
hear that
attach
kind of
themselves.
take from Joy Reid.
Yeah, but she had to attach herself to someone, in this case, Neera Tanden or whoever she's attached to in the Clinton world, in order to get where she is. Right? Very
Yeah.
rarely do black people who are not connected, don't have this, who do not have social capital, are going to be lifted up. Even the people that we don't think have social capital have some sort of social capital, right? Look at D-Ray. He's got much more social capital than people think, right? It's
No, that's okay. He's using all his peddling
yeah,
Doritos.
it sure is. Barack Obama, right? He had social capital and he had financial capital, right? He grew up in a well-off white family, right? His grandparents left him $500,000, right? He went to
Really?
these yeah. He wasn't poor. A lot of people try to say that his grandparents left him $500,000 when they
That's a
died.
lot of money.
That's a lot of goddamn money. How many black people you know? How many people of color you know to get that kind of inheritance?
I don't know any white people.
Nobody in my circle, right? Right. And these are the type of things that people don't understand, right? Because he had the finance capital and he got social capital because of the schools he went to, right? He went to Ivy League schools, right? And he got in, was it Yale or Harvard he went to? He got in there because his father went there, right? And not to say he wasn't brilliant, but he was a legacy, right?
That
That's
does
social
make a
capital.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's social capital right there, especially being a black legacy. Come on, really? You got to get in, right? So,
Okay. What does your shirt say? I'm sorry. I
oh,
just can't.
it says you're killing me, Smalls.
Oh, okay. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's what it said. I like the
Sorry,
movie too.
I didn't want to interrupt you with
It's
some
all right.
hot
It's all
talk.
right. But yeah, people don't realize that a lot of people who are in these places have social and social and financial capital backing them, right? Whether they came in the door with it, or they were somebody who was lifted up by it, like what's that boy's name? Ted Cruz. He was lifted up by it. Tom Cotton lifted up by capital. You know, who else? Kamala Harris lifted up by capital. And it's no mistake she didn't prosecute Steve Mnuchin. That wasn't a mistake, right?
I want to say I saw something recently that said that her campaign was the only one that he
The only Democratic
donated to.
campaign that he donated to, right? That wasn't a mistake. And people say there's no quid pro quo, but
Why aren't people talking about that? I don't know.
Yeah, people will. But I mean, the mainstream media will never touch it because she's the chosen one. The folks in the Hamptons says she's the one, right? So she's being lifted up by capital. I mean, that's just the way the world works, right?
I want to say that I saw this on Aladdin, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Those who have the gold make the rules.
Yep, the golden rule, absolutely. Absolutely. And it is what it is. And it's nothing, and in the short term, there's nothing we can do about it. Right? It's just the way the world works. It's just the way they've engineered the world, so to speak. You know? Did I answer your question that time? I didn't answer
I think so. That's okay. We'll move on.
Yeah.
So your book stops in April of last year,
Mm-hmm.
which was well over a year ago, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot has happened since then,
Yeah.
including the general election.
Yeah.
It was a crazy thing to write about.
Devastating.
When is the next volume coming out?
It'd probably come out sometime this month. I just got to collect all the stories together, and yeah, it'll probably come out sometime this month. But yeah, that's the plan anyway. But I also want to under the Our Bernie Sanders masthead, I want to collect essays from other people, and do like a book for women, about feminism and how women of color and people of color, different groups that Bernie impacted, right? And I want to collect essays from people like that, and also have hear their voice, especially women and women of color. And it's kind of a pushback to this Bernie bro thing, because I mean it's not hard to find. I mean, it was that Harvard study came out. It's 80% of Black people are believe in what Bernie's talking about, or support Bernie in some way, shape, or form. Come on, really? There's no Black people or no women that you can find that don't think Bernie is a Klansman. These people are
No,
not hard
we're
to find.
all Bernie bros and
Yeah.
brocialists and progressives.
Mm-hmm.
Someone called me a hogressive once.
Never heard. I'm sorry, I never heard that one. Hogressive. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry.
Well,
I
they're more creative than I gave credit for.
I documented that. It's there for posterity.
Yeah.
No,
That's
it's
crazy.
definitely it's a thing. They try to erase it.
Yeah, they try to erase us. They really, really, really work hard to erase us, right? And like we were talking about earlier with Nina Turner, right? She in their mind she can't actually exist. Not and she is a I don't know. She is a unicorn in their minds. Why is this Black woman on Bernie's side? But if
Not
you
only
listen,
is she a unicorn, but I just want to get it on record that
Mhm.
that woman can kill a fucking wrap dress. She looks so
I'm
damn
going
good
to
in
keep
a
my
wrap
comment for
dress.
myself. I'm a big fan of Senator Turner, excuse me, Madam President of the
Our
of our
revolution.
revolution. Yeah, of our revolution. I'm going to keep my comments to myself. She is a sharp dresser. That's what I'm gonna leave it right there.
She kills it in those damn wrap dresses.
She's a
I
really
commented on Twitter once about that to her, and she liked it. So
yeah,
she
yeah.
agrees.
That's what Mom says about it. My mom says, "Man, that woman sure can dress. Yeah,
Yeah,
she kills it.
those wrap dresses, they look so good on her.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
This is totally off topic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna get me in trouble. Go ahead, next thing.
I think that's it. So
Uh,
you're trying to put together a book from different perspectives about Bernie Sanders,
yeah,
which is not really a view that's captured at all. As
yeah,
we've kind of talked about, people would try to
mhm,
pretend
yeah.
like that
That view
doesn't
doesn't
happen on the
exist.
left. Yeah,
Yeah,
on the left.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's it. So I guess I'm looking forward to that happening. And whenever the second volume of your personal perspective comes out, which
hmm
you said this month, but I'll give you till September
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
So I
Same.
don't.
Yeah. Give me till September.
So I'm not saying like your book is coming out in August.
Yeah,
It's
no,
August.
but
No.
I'll give you I'll let you know so you can announce it on the show.
Yeah.
You'll be the first to know. How about that? It'll be an exclusive for you.
Oh, great. I
So
didn't mean to
excited!
sound so sarcastic. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's so exciting.
I didn't mean to sound. I'm really excited about that.
Yay, Mike.
Just because feel like things really got contentious in the general election, so
Mhm.
I think it'd be really nice to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody was in your mind's perspective.
Everybody
There's a lot
wants
of cursing
to.
involved.
Everybody wants to. Cursing is fine. I'm okay with that. I don't know if you are. I'm okay with
All
that.
right.
So why don't you give everybody your social media handles so that they can follow you and keep keep up with you and get in, like really get a look at all of your Twitter battles. I know that I jump in sometimes.
Yeah, some folks just jump in, and you're always welcome to jump in my Twitter fights.
Some of them I stay far away from.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah. Anyway, it gets kind of crazy on Twitter. That's Twitter world. That's our Twitter life. Well, you can reach me on Twitter at Blupfront, BLUPFRONT. And you can see my writing on Progressive Army, all of my essays and stuff. And you're soon going to be seeing me on Progressive Uplift on that blog as well. And that's about it for right now.
All right. So I want to remind everybody to read our Bernie Sanders Writing Revolution in all subsequent volumes, featuring whoever else.
And featuring you in one sooner or later.
Subscribe to this podcast. Show some love to Progressive Uplift, who does a really good job giving a voice to people who wouldn't normally get a voice with progressive views.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank you, Michael, for coming on to discuss your book. And I'm sorry that we got so off topic so many times.
No, it was fun. It was a blast. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be your first interview. I'm excited. I hope people enjoyed as much as I did. At least half as much as I did. You'll be doing fine.
Well, if everybody drinks like I am, they should be fine.
They should be fine.
So yeah, thank you for coming on. Once again, I'm your host, Brittany, and you can follow me on Twitter at Blue Purple Rain. And see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
How's that?